Bruce Fein is a constitutional attorney here in Washington, D.C., and he is joining us right now. So, Bruce, everyone wanting to know right now, what did Michael Flynn have to give up? What did he say or do to get the deal he got?
Well, we also have to ask what Mr. Mueller gave up in order to get the deal he got, because he doesn't have to go to trial. He's got a guilty plea. And I think if you put all of the cards together based upon my 50 years here, it's something like this, that there are more serious charges that could have been pressed. For example, failure to register as a foreign agent for Turkey, because Mr. Flynn is known now to have gotten maybe $1 million for acting on behalf of the government of Turkey to track down a fellow named Fethullah Gulen, who allegedly was implicated in a plot to overthrow the government of Turkey. He could have also had an issue with his son, who was implicated in some misstatements, false statements. That doesn't seem to be in the works anymore. The son gets a free ride. Mr. Flynn has to, I think, have agreed to spill all the beans for Mr. Mueller in order to get a charge, 2 counts of lying to the FBI, not under oath. It's called the false statements charge, which overall, compared to what was being bruited, is minor charges. Doesn't mean he couldn't go to prison, but they may well refrain from sentencing until they see what the nature of his cooperation is. I believe that for Mr. Trump, there are at least 2 vulnerabilities that come forth because of this particular plea. One, you remember that Trump asked Jim Comey, based upon Comey's testimony, you need to shut down the Flynn investigation. Well, that probably didn't happen unless Trump spoke to Flynn in advance of that overture to Comey. And that could implicate Mr. Trump in obstruction of justice if he was working with Flynn to try to prevent the investigation.
He actually, yes, was trying.
And, you know, obstruction of justice, I've been around, worked on the Nixon impeachment and Clinton impeachment, both. Obstruction of justice were counts of impeachable offenses. The second thing that it shows is this blanket statement by Mr. Trump repeatedly. This is all fake news. It's all made up just to blame Russians for Hillary Clinton's defeat. It now seems much less effectual and convincing, because now this inner circle, this is not somebody on the fringe. The National Security Advisor is close to get to the White House and the Oval Office, now pleading guilty.
But he can come back and say, well, look, I did fire Michael Flynn after he allegedly lied to our vice president about this.
Well, but this is the reason why I think that's very weak, because all the testimony is that before he hired Mr. Flynn, Mr. Trump was told by the Obama transition officials, including Sally Yates, the acting attorney general, you should not be hiring Mr. Flynn. He could be blackmailed by Russia based upon the information we have. Because remember, this information was picked up by the national security agencies. So it was clear even before this plea agreement happened that Mr. Trump went ahead anyway.
He said he coordinated these conversations with 2 very senior Trump administration officials. How senior does that sound to you?
If you're the National Security Advisor, there's only one person between you and God, and that's the President of the United States. There isn't any higher official that you can report to. It's the only supervisor you have. So that's an implication is Mr. Trump knew what he was going to be saying.
So for Mueller, obstruction of justice would have to be proving that there was corruption behind Mr. Trump, not just looking out for Flynn, saying, hey, go easy on him, Comey. You know, don't give him too hard of a time.
Well, the definition of obstruction, you know, it's like many crimes. You have to prove a state of mind, you know, just like there's first-degree murder and negligent manslaughter. So what you would have to show to get obstruction of justice, that the reason why the president made an overture to Comey to shut down the investigation was to shield his national security advisor from a criminal prosecution. And if you could show that was his state of mind, that's obstruction.
We'll leave it with this, but any predictions?
I think that this is still open field. I've been around so long that you can get changes here. My prediction, however, is that because these issues, especially of impeachment, are so politicized, that Trump's worry has to be if the House flips to Democrats in 18 and his popularity starts to tilt towards 20s, he's got a short shelf life.
All righty. Well, Bruce Fein, thank you for your expertise. We will see. Thank you.